So, welcome to week 6 of the Winter Wellness Plan with Jack Green and myself, Rob Stevenson. Hi, Jack. How are you doing today?
Hi Rob, all good. I was thinking about this in terms of the form score, and I was wishing there was like a 6.5 or maybe a 6.8 because I always seem to be around there. So yeah, I'm floating between a 6 and a 7 today.
Well,
What about you?
yeah. Well, before I get into me, we can term that a 7. Let's think in the positive and the
Yeah.
optimistic. 6.8 is definitely a 7. So good form for you. If I'm honest, Jack, I'm struggling a bit today. As you can see, low form, 5 out of 10. And for me, this is all around the impact of long COVID. I think I've pushed myself too hard a couple of weeks ago, exercising, thinking I was recovered. That has triggered the long COVID, the stress reaction, and now I've just got no energy, and everything then is just feeling on top of me, really. And it's like I'm swimming through treacle, walking through treacle. It's like simple tasks feel really difficult, but I'm trying to practice what we preach, and be accepting of that, and be kind to myself, and do all of the things around, kind of what I need to do in the day to stay well. So where I can take breaks, I will. And, this theme of this week is all around connection. And I think one of the beautiful things about being open about your mental health, like I am, is that when we do struggle, when I am struggling, then I can connect with people on that topic, and receive support. So a few years ago, and you must know what this is like, I would suffer on my own, and that 5 out of 10 could turn out to a 4 out of 10, and I could be in bed for a few days with depression. Whereas now I feel much better being able to talk to you about it, to be able to talk to other people in my network.
Yeah, and I think that was the most important thing about what you're saying here is how you're also managing. You're someone who works in well-being and is this is your life, yet you still have to manage it, and that's a big
Yeah.
part of what we're talking about. Neither of us have got this completely right, but we continue to manage and use the tools that we're talking about here to help ourselves, not just other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. We're all human. We all do have to manage, and we will all experience low form. And it's sometimes I can look at how I portray what I do on social media and in talks, and it looks, yeah, very exciting. I'm doing all of these exciting things and talking on stages in the virtual and the physical world. But actually, it's important to share the struggle as well, because it's the struggle that's often kept in the darkness. So, I'm wearing my 5 out of 10 proudly, and I'm hoping that moves to a 6. But if it doesn't, that's cool too. It's part of the process of management, as you say. So, we're here today to talk a little bit about connections, social connections. I'm going to start off with the phrase that I hate the most out of the pandemic, which is social distancing. And I remember when this first came out, Jack, I tried to get it changed. I tried to sort of track down the people that were talking about this, and the government included, and say, look, we need to be talking about physical distancing to be safe, but we need to be talking about social connectedness, because what's going to happen through the pandemic is that social connections are eroded because of the need to be physically distant, and that's going to have an impact on mental health. And that's what we've seen. Now, I was clearly unsuccessful in trying to get this term changed, but for me, it's the wrong emphasis.
Yeah, I think I'm quite jealous sitting here that you came up with that idea. I'm talking to my own brain right now, going, why didn't I think of that? It makes complete sense, and it's so true. And I don't think, and it shows how important language is, but it shows how we don't really think about it deeply enough, and we allow these things to happen. When actually, as you said, social, closeness and connectiveness is the most important thing for us. So many people are struggling, which is why it's a theme in our winter wellness program.
Yeah, definitely. Really important. I mean, important at all times. We, have evolved as humans in a tribal way. We're used to being with others. We do things together. Um, and did you know social isolation and loneliness, if you look at them as risk factors for disease and morbidity, are as important as smoking, obesity, or lack of exercise. So, life expectancy, if you're lonely, will have the similar effect as if you're a heavy smoker in certain cases. Um,
Which is astounding, really. And this just shows how much we detach physical health and mental health and those well-being, when actually they're clearly so closely fit together, which is a big thing when I'm working with athletes. I'm working in sport and telling them that being a human being will help your performance, and that's no different to what we're hearing here.
Yeah, I was chatting to someone yesterday, a fellow ex-basketball player, and LeBron James obviously is not short of a dollar or two, but invests apparently about 2 million a year in his well-being, as as well as obviously everything he invests in sort of time and effort in his physical and fitness, which is really interesting to hear someone like that, putting such an importance on well-being. And the Mental Health Foundation, which are always good for a statistic or two from a UK perspective, I've looked at lockdown and I've seen a rise in people experiencing loneliness from 1 in 6 to 1 in 4. And I think more worryingly, that young people now are 3 times more likely to experience loneliness than older people, with 44% of our young people saying that they feel lonely right now. Now, you're correct, this has a massive effect on our mental health. Loneliness for those with existing conditions of depression results in poor outcomes. And it's been really interesting on some of the research I've done around the Form Score app, which is all around using that Form Score number to connect with others, that actually the sense of belonging is really important. And we can get really positive effects on our mental health from things like WhatsApp groups, for example, if they're used in the right way and they're positive because of this, sense of belonging. So I think we can conclude that the pandemic, remote working, physical distancing are all having a detrimental effect on our overall well-being and our mental health in certain cases. So the question then is, what can we do to offset this? What can we do to maintain connections when we need to be physically distant? Now, again, when people get through to this part of the program, we're not sure what sort of lockdown situations they will be in various territories globally. However, I think we are seeing that this will take some time to unravel, and that we'll be working remotely for some time, no doubt. So what sort of things are you thinking about, Jack, in terms of how we can maintain our social connections and connectivity during times where we need to be sort of physically distant to be safe?
Yeah, so only 2 days ago, my nan, bless her, she's been having postponed operations and so on, and has ended up being quarantined since the first lockdown with no break, where the operations get kind of a new date and she still has to quarantine. So bless her, she lives on her own. She's feeling quite down and quite sad. So I was driving the other day and I called her up and she said, I'm not feeling too great today, and haven't been able to see her because she doesn't live too close to me. But I was driving past where she lives. So my way of trying to help her was, I just said, look, I've got a really big coat in the car because it was cold and it was dark because it was in the evening. And I said, we'll go on your front doorstep. You put your coat on. Make sure that the house doesn't get too cold, but I'll put mine on. I'll stand 2 meters plus away. I'll wear a mask as well, because you've got to be careful with older generation. It's my nan, and I don't want her getting ill, and especially not from me. So I stood there and I spent, the plan was to be there for half an hour. I spent an hour and a half just chatting to her, and it made the world of difference, because she had that connection in terms of physical. Yes, I wasn't able to hug her, which is sad and so on, but instead of me just calling her or seeing her on FaceTime, which is so important, but that actual being there made a huge difference. So that's, a story that's just happened within my life. And I was able to make a big difference to someone I care about just by showing up and being there. So as long as we're creative, there's no reason why you can't go and see people. Obviously, restriction, limiting, whatever it might be, whatever the rules are. But, there's always a way to possibly see someone and make their day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you use the word creative there, and I think that is really important, is be creative about our communication channels. And, as we know, all of the pillars of form and our well-being are interlinked, and there is this thing called Zoom fatigue that's kicking around right now. But actually, could we write a letter to someone that we know is living alone? I mean, I think this is a beautiful thing right now. Is how cool would that be? Or we're in the UK entering the Christmas period now at the time of recording. Obviously making an effort with our Christmas cards, but personalising them a little bit, and just thinking of how that person at the other end would receive them. But I think we're probably locked into, in a workplace, a lot of video conferencing. So for me, I think actually picking up the phone and having a conversation that's not about work with a colleague or a customer or a client or whoever it might be, and just saying, hey, how are you today? Just thought I'd check in with you. And I think that sort of stuff is really good for facilitating connections, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, and I think what's happened since we've gone into working from home, I know we talked a little bit about this on previous episode as such, but what we've done a lot of is the only time we schedule meetings or speak to people is when we need something or it's business. Whereas we weren't like that when we were in the office or just out and about. You just see people and have a chat. So I'm really big on, I don't like starting business straight away on the chat. Let's have 5 minutes of how's family, how's whatever it might be, how things going. I think it's so important to keep that connection in that way instead of it feeling like we're robots that only do work, only do business.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're missing is that informal chat that we might get just passing a colleague in the corridors or in the coffee shop or whatever it might be. And we have to be more disciplined and work hard to replicate those. And I really like the idea of doing events that specifically facilitate that. So I've done quite a few with some clients where the theme has been around well-being, but the magic has been around people connecting in breakout rooms or around virtual tables, just to chat, just to catch up, where there's no real pressure to discuss a specific point or business issue or whatever it might be. It is just connecting with those colleagues that we enjoy spending time with, or meeting new ones in global businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And I think taking away a topic or a subject allows that to happen. Whereas too often, well, what's the reason for this? Sometimes it's just, well, we're just having a catch up. That's fine. It doesn't have to have a reason. Another thing I like to do, I go out and walk a lot. I like to get outside and try and escape the house. And I've been doing this before the pandemic, was I try and say hello to everyone.
Yeah.
Which, sometimes can look a bit weird. Some people laugh about it, but it actually makes a huge difference. And it all came from the fact that, I felt down at times. I've been outside and all you want is someone to ask how you are, or to be able to help you in some way, or just notice you. So I thought, if I just walk past and go morning or hello, whatever it might be, I might have actually made someone feel quite good from saying one word. I thought that was, it was something, I remember reading it somewhere. It was like, make a conscious effort to do something similar. So I decided to do that, and I continue to do it now. And hopefully that helps some people.
I think that's a good one. I'm laughing because it reminds me, and I think it was a health and safety conference. I saw someone show this, and it was a sketch of a man from Manchester came down to London and was saying hello to everyone, and it was reported on the news that this man was talking to strangers and saying hello. But it's really interesting, isn't it, that as humans in big cities, we're heads down, we're very focused, and maybe as we come through this, we will value the fact that we can say hello to a stranger or smile at a stranger and feel that level of human connection as we come out of these challenging times.
Yeah, and everything's slowed down, hasn't it? So I think that's a great opportunity. That a lot of the time when we think of connecting and connect, we think about other people. What can we do for other people? How can I connect with friends, family? But I think with this opportunity, with things being a bit slower, it's actually good to look inwards and go, well, what do I want? Who am I? What's important to me? Find what your why is, your motivation, whatever it might be. I think it's a really good opportunity to take that step back, look after yourself. And we've talked about it in terms of putting on your own oxygen mask. So in feeling connected, if we're connected with ourselves, it's going to allow us to connect better with others.
Yeah, absolutely. Connect with self, and you've mentioned it before, connect with nature and get outside. So it's worth thinking about as we enter this theme of connection this week, of what does connection mean to you as an individual, our warriors on this journey, and how can we creatively think about connection. So this program's not a vehicle for me to plug the form score, but actually it's relevant to talk about here, because form score is all around facilitating connections via using a piece of technology to do it. So for those that don't know the app, if we're connected on the app, so me and you are connected, Jack, you will see my 5 out of 10. Since I've posted my 5 out of 10, I've had a number of people on the app send me messages to say, hey, Rob, I can see your form is low. How are you doing? But similarly, I've, when I've posted a 9 out of 10, I've had people reach out and say, hey, great to see that you're a 9. So it's not just about kind of the low form, but what the app does is allow people to know when somebody might need a check-in, and that's the kind of magic of it. So you've been using it, Jack. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like it, and I used it from the very first day, I think, and connected with you on there. And it's great to see your average and see that consistency of
Yeah.
roughly where am I, and maybe figure out why you feel a certain way. Was there a trigger? Did something happen in that day that might have, you might have started at a 4 or 3, and now I'm a 7. Well, how did that happen? What was the reason? But the bit I like most is that circle that you've
Yeah.
got, that circle of friends, that circle of work, work colleagues. For me, I want to use it with my athletes. So I've got athletes downloading it because I need to know how they feel on a certain day. I can't demand that someone runs super fast at the best of their ability if things aren't right. If their form scores a 3 and it pops up on my screen, they're a 3, then I know, right, cool. I'm going to have at least have a conversation, ask them how they are, ask what's wrong. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can just be aware of it and be a bit easier on them. And I love that. That was my favorite part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just changed my background there to show the circle. So check out the form score. It is another way that we can facilitate connections. And then one other idea I thought I'd just leave with you is a good friend of mine, Math Potts, who runs a great social enterprise called Camarados, which actually is all about connection. So hopefully we can get a bit of content from Math as part of this week. But he's a writer as well. He's writing a book, and he talks about just setting up an open Zoom call with a fellow writer, and they're just sort of working away, tapping away, and occasionally might kind of grunt at each other. But there's a level of connection that they're getting when they're working in isolation. And I really like that idea, and extending that to the kind of buddy system that I keep talking about, using the What tool, the Thriving tool to check in with our buddies. Sometimes actually it can be quite nice if we're doing kind of non-meeting based work that we just open up a channel and do that together with someone if we're working remotely. So I think that's another good one to try, Jack.
Yeah, and that made me think, people might not know at home, but you and I have never actually physically met.
We haven't, have we?
No, we've never physically met, but we've worked on a project together.
Yeah.
We've had a same goal. Let's work on this project, and I feel incredibly connected to you because of that. You and I chat multiple times a week. We record together. We come up with ideas, and it's been amazing in terms of feeling connected to someone. And that's someone I've never even physically met. So it's possible that if you have that common goal or that common project, you're able to get that connectedness.
Yeah, that's incredible. So as you said that, I thought, no, surely we've met. We must have met because it feels like we've met, and it feels like we do know each other quite well. And you're right, our connection and our contact has been generated through this medium. So, yeah, you're right. That's and that should be an inspiration for us all, really. That while we need to be physically distant to be safe, we can still build new connections. We can maintain existing ones. We've just got to think a bit more creatively. So hopefully that gives you a bit of food for thought. There's a few ideas in there. Use them well, but just think, how can you connect with people that mean a lot to you right now? So Jack, thanks for connecting with me today, and look forward to the next episode.